Hey everyone, you're listening to the Visually Stunning Movie Podcast, the place to come if you just want to listen to some guys BS about movies the way you BS about movies, only slightly more intelligently, we hope. Be sure to visit our website at vsmoviepodcast.com. Catch us on Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Apple News, Google Play, Stitcher, basically any place you want to listen to us, you can hear us. And remember, if you like what you hear, don't forget to share us with your friends. Now, let's get on with the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Visually Stunning Movie Podcast. I am Mark. That is Ryan. Hi Ryan, how are you?
Oh, I'm breathing.
You breathe. You've had a busy week. You've seen lots of movies this week.
Yeah, lots of movies and lots of news. So,
and lots of news. The movie we're going to talk about, Hotel Artemis, the feature debut of director Drew Pearce, where he apparently managed to cajole Jodie Foster out of retirement to act, is what I hear. But it's a pretty solid cast. Jodie Foster, Sterling K. Brown, Sophia Boutella, Jeff Goldblum, Jenny Slate, Zachary Quinto, Charlie Day, Dave Bautista. That's a pretty stacked cast.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's a stacked cast with kind of an untried director handling what in essence is really a fairly standard action movie, crime movie, sort of. There's a lot of, pardon my French, there's a lot of what the fuckisms in this movie, which I'm sure I'll talk about some of them. That may or may not actually affect what I think of the movie as a whole, but there are a lot of what the fuckisms here. So, the Hotel Artemis is a hospital, an underground hospital for criminals. When they're shot, stabbed, broken, if they've paid a membership to a dark room, is what they call them. There's dark rooms in all the major cities, which are hospitals like this. They can go and get treated. So that's what happens. Sterling K. Brown is robbing a bank, and it goes awry, and he and his brother are hurt, and they go to the Hotel Artemis. And things spiral downwards from there.
Well, and this is set a decade in the future,
2028.
Yeah, and although that's not, that's occasionally, I guess that's it's hard. It's hard.
The exact date is mentioned one time.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know how important it is. Well, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, it is important in the fact that this is in L.A. and there are riots going on, full-scale riots against a private corporation who controls water and has cut off residential water to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So there are water riots, which, depending on which Tin Hat website you go to, that's the next big thing, are the water wars.
Well, James Bond thought so.
But, so that, we've got that. So that's the world in which we live in. I mean, it's literally citywide. The city is marching on the corporate headquarters of Clearwater, I believe is the name of the company. So that is going on. What did you think of this setting? Because there are some comparisons to be made to other films.
Yeah, well, I think I'd rather watch the Riot film. There is definitely. It wasn't as much like John Wick as I was afraid of.
I concur.
But in a way, that's not a good thing, and I can explain that later. But there's also the purge element that you kind of get that get off the streets sort of thing.
I also concur.
I think here's my take on the film. The thing that made John Wick and the Continental, which is the hotel where all the hitmen go and have to be civil with each other and don't break the rules and don't, they basically it's off limits. You can't kill each other there. You can't, whatever. You're safe. And that's a film where we get to see criminals and bad, evil people or morally questionable people behave. And that's what, to me, makes the Continental interesting, is because you have these people who have, in a sense, no regard for law, but there is a code that they embrace and live. And so they have their own sort of sense of morality. And for me, Hotel Artemis was very predictable and very almost, I don't know if the word's boring or It just wasn't that interesting to me because it's a film about criminals doing what criminals do, and that is breaking rules. And that, to me, that made this film tired. I liked the art design. I liked Jodie Foster's character. There were a couple action sequences, particularly at the end in the hallway, that I love. But generally speaking, I found this film to be so commonplace and so B-movie 1972. It's an invasion film, and we've seen that a million times. And the only difference is this one was set in the future in a hotel.
Right.
And
yeah,
so I didn't really care for this film.
No, it's not as good as it. I don't want to say should have been. It's not as good as it could have been. Unlike you, I didn't really care for Jodie Foster's character too much. There was just something the only time I even really cared about her was when she was dealing with Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Well, and
but then there was something there for me to actually give two shits about.
Well, and I would think that is accurate, because for the most part, we're given a lot of like vague hints at what has happened. We're not, which is fine when it's done right, but it's hard to feel sympathy for the majority of the characters in this film, and with Jodie Foster's character, that sympathy probably doesn't come until later when you understand the relationship, and what happened, and et cetera, and that's fine. But I think the key difference between this and John Wick, or this and even Ocean's 8 that came out this week, when we're supposed to be cheering for the quote-unquote bad guy, or the guy who is killing people, or whatever it is, in John Wick's case, someone killed his dog, so clearly he needs to go out and get revenge, but we're okay with it. I didn't feel like I cared if any of these people really got free, except for May. Gosh, it's one of those things where it's like you made your bed. You go ahead and sleep in it. It's hard for me to feel any sympathy or even care if these people survive, because there's so little of them to grab onto.
Yeah, I think I like Dave Bautista as Everest best.
Yeah, and I would probably, looking at it, he's the one, but we don't really know his story.
No, that's like 3 lines.
Yeah,
tells you his background with Hotel Artemis, and but for it was enough in this mash of characters that he was the one that kind of stood out as maybe the most redeemable.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly like him. Well, and again, actually, the more I think of it, it goes back to the fact that he seems to have a moral compass.
Right, and I think one of the differences you pointed out between this and John Wick is that in Wick, the Wiccan universe, they behave, and if they don't, they are immediately corrected by the establishment, not by the others. Whereas in this movie, once a rule is broken, it's game on.
Yeah,
because there's no organizational enforcement, and that's part of what makes it different. Now, they are set in 2 completely different worlds, and an organization like Hotel Artemis, and by the way, part of this goes to like the Night Nurse storyline in the Netflix Marvel shows, which is really what Rosario Dawson's character is going to become, and has almost gotten there. But it's so I think Drew Pearce, who also wrote this, has tried to draw a lot. He has drawn a lot of interesting elements from various other works, but they don't all fit the way he's got them. So, and then he's got all this acting talent, but there's not really enough there to hang your hat on. And the movie is incredibly short. There was plenty of room for character development.
If he had wanted to.
If he had wanted to. And in a film like this, he either needed to make the world richer, as it was in John Wick, or he needed to make the characters more human and identifiable, like Marvel has in their Netflix films when they're dealing with all the underground crap. And he has managed to do neither.
Yeah, and I think part of the thing about the John Wick film is, and what they've done in the sequel and everything, is it's not. I mean, Hotel Artemis. It's almost like every city has its own rules. Every city has its own thing. Whereas, in the John Wick universe, this is a very established, worldwide sort of, and that to me, for whatever reason, is more interesting than someone who's set up shop, who's kind of a independent thing.
Yeah,
it's probably more plausible, the Hotel Artemis, but it's not as interesting.
I have no doubt that there are establishments like that.
Yeah.
In this world, I suffer no delusion that somewhere there's not a Hotel Artemis. Maybe not quite as technologically put together as that is, but that is, I mean, and they've existed since crime has existed. But like I said, this film, there's not enough character development, and the closest he gets to character development is bringing in Jenny Slate's character, to try to provide a framework to hang Jodie Foster's character on.
Yeah.
And it's hit or miss. So she's kind of a wasted character. I mean, she's a catalyst for other things, but character-wise, it's not really.
Well, yeah, because she's there. She's a device.
Yeah.
She's almost not really a character as much as it's what, she represents. Or again, it goes back to this thing about these rules and that aren't supposed to be broken.
Well, and then Jeff Goldblum comes out and tells you the plot of the film. Oh, without the rule breakers, a place like this wouldn't even exist.
Yeah. So it's just like, well, okay.
She's the human equivalent in this film of the pen, the portable vault.
Yeah.
It's a device designed to elicit certain reactions and motivate certain actions.
And I'm going to be honest with you, the vault, the pen thing, which is if you see the film, it seemed like, yeah, it's a big deal.
That has no bearing on the film.
Yeah, it's like, well, we put this in so you know that it's a big deal, but it's. I mean, I swear to you that I thought it was there was going to be something different than what there was with that.
And there should have been. That's the confrontation that is supposed to blow up the Hotel Artemis, metaphorically speaking. But it's not. It's there. They put it in a trailer. So I knew about it. So they showed that it's in a trailer, and it belongs. Not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. Belongs to Jeff Goldblum's character. But so that is supposed to be what blows this whole thing up, and it's completely inconsequential until the end when it's used as what? A plot device to throw a punch.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? So like I said, this film could have been better. Not it. They would. I don't know. They would have had to rewrite this a lot to even approach Wick.
Well, yeah, and I think the thing that's disappointing is that in our heads we could figure out that no one had to break any rules to make this film work. Really,
no.
They could have all lived by the code, and something else. The pen in this instance could have been a catalyst, but instead it's kind of a misdirection that they can throw into the. I haven't watched the trailer, but if it's featured in the trailer, it's obviously they want you to think that it's about this. But lo and behold, it's, something else entirely. And isn't that shocking? And, well, I didn't find that part of, it just felt like it should have been far more than it was or not been included at all.
Yeah. It was complete waste of time to even talk about it. I mean, it just pops up and for no purpose at all. The last film we talked about, Hereditary, a lot better put together from a story standpoint. This, it's just and even, I mean, look, Hereditary, is everything in Hereditary new? No,
There's ideas throughout Hereditary that are like, okay, that's a genre trope. You know, we've seen this in other movies, we've seen this in other movies, and we've seen this in other movies. But the way they present it feels different and fresh and smart. And that's what I would also say about the John Wick films, is it's not that they're incredibly original, it's that they're done extremely well, and that they do maybe that extra thing that we're not used to seeing in an action film. And in that case, in John Wick's case, it's character development and establishing of a world. It's not this generic sort of
it's not
thing.
It's not just a bang bang shoot 'em up. Whereas in this film, it feels just like a bang bang shoot 'em up. You know what I'm going to compare this to, and I don't know if you ever got around to watching it, was Free Fire. It came out last year. Had Brie Larson.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Remember that one, the arms deal in the warehouse.
Yes, but the thing about that one is it didn't claim to be anything more than that.
Exactly. But that's what made it so fun. It absolutely knew what it was, and it embraced it for an hour and a half. And that is completely acceptable. But this film, it never wanted to be more than it was, so it never quite got to be anything, except kind of a half-ass shoot 'em up.
Yeah, I mean, I loved some of the art design that was in, you know, the cinematography of inside the hotel. I just the colors and the way some of it was shot, but I'm going to be honest with you, I'm struggling to figure out why they bothered setting it in the future.
It was so that they could amplify issues like
the water,
and if you caught it, all the city security was private contractors who were allowed to establish a curfew, which also ramped up the riots. So they set it in the future so they could try to logically blow up issues we're having today, or issues we might be having.
But the thing about that to me is then you never address those aspects. Those things are peripheral. Those things are. We spend so little time out and addressing any of that stuff.
Right. I mean, they could have, had Goldblum's character, I can't even remember what he called himself. Firewolf or Wolf of LA, whatever he was called, whatever name they gave him. Had he been like a controlling, or like, if he'd owned like 30% of Clearwater, and that had been like a organized crime power play, they could have expanded the world that way. They could have gone a lot of different ways, but they just kind of throw those things in the background, and then that's it. They're
actually located in that building, the Clearwater building, or, I mean, it's almost as if like there's this sense of, well, you should be afraid to go outside. Well, okay, to a degree, yes, but these rioters aren't just randomly killing people.
No, it's not like, well, what's funny though, and here, you know what? We've been talking for close to 20 minutes. Tell me if this is not the perfect metaphor for this film. They say that the Artemis is 3 blocks from Clearwater headquarters. It's close, but it's not quite there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, which is funny because that headquarters does not look like it belongs 3 blocks from where the Artemis is. No. But for sake of argument, we're going to say that, they're really big city blocks. And that makes up the difference. Hotel Artemis as a film is close. It's on the paper, but it's not on the target.
Well, and that's I think that there's this is like a first draft that someone needed to go through and say, okay, why are you doing this? Tell me why. A misdirection? Well, that's not enough. Why are you doing this? This, and why is it? Give me the reason why no one, in the corporate conglomerate thought that this riots would happen. I mean, it's asinine to me that just a lot of the setups of this film just don't work because they're not thought all the way through. They're not. I mean, it's like if if it just wanted to be a dumb action movie, it could have been just a dumb action movie. But the problem is it aspired to be more, and we know this because A, who they cast,
right,
and B, the way that the whole the film is set up, it's almost as if they think they're building their own little masterpiece. I don't know if they were shooting to be Escape from New York type masterpiece, or if they were shooting to be more something. I don't know, but whatever they were shooting for, they completely missed.
Yeah, it's so I'm at like a 3.5 stars out of 3.5 out of 10. Forget stars. This is like 3.5 out of 10. And
yeah, I'm floating around 4.
Yeah, I was gonna say 4, but I was 4 for what it could have been. But you know what? That's giving it too much credit.
Yeah, and it probably. I mean, it's the sort of thing that I think. Oh gosh, and this is what's sad is I think sometimes the bar that I put is this going to satisfy the fans that it was made for? And the problem is this is not going to satisfy the fans that it was made for. And so the odds of it satisfying anyone who is not into that particular genre are very, 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 very slim.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me I can't recommend this film to anybody, particularly when there's stuff out there that's a lot better.
Yeah, there is. So that's where we're at. 3.5, 4 stars out of that. 3.5, 4 out of 10. All right. So there you go. That is Hotel Artemis. See it at your own peril. I think we'll agree on that. What's coming up next week?
What is this? Is Incredibles next week?
The 16th? No. Yeah, because it's 16th, 17th. Is it Incredibles next week? So Incredibles 2. Who's excited? Raise your hand. My hand is up.
I don't have to be excited. I've seen it.
Shut up. Yeah, I know, right? But no, again, we still got good movies coming out, which is great. I'm all for it. So,
yeah,
but yes, next week, Incredibles 2.
And then there's a Jurassic World, which actually opened up internationally this weekend. So reviews are out for that.
Okay, you know what? I haven't looked yet, but here's what I want to say.
I haven't either.
I reviewed without you a movie called Jurassic Games.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed quite a bit. If you listen to that review.
Yeah.
If Jurassic Games turns out to be better than Jurassic World, somebody in Hollywood needs to be fired. Because as much as I enjoyed Jurassic Games, and I did, there's no way it should be better than Jurassic World. So just FYI, Hollywood, that better not happen.
Well, but I never saw Jurassic Park 2 or 3.
2's not terrible. 3 is not great.
I had little to no just desire. I mean, I guess, I heard enough about the premises and whatever, and so I just never bothered to see them. And I know that, no, actually, I've never heard anything really positive said about either of them to make me feel like I need to go see it, other than the fact that I probably should watch every movie that Spielberg has made, and I think that might be the only one that I haven't. So I guess there's that completist element to it.
Oh, so speaking of not getting paid for our job.
Yeah.
I'll shameless plug and say we're on Patreon now if anyone wants to give us $1 a month to try to offset some of what we do. And that's the last I'll say of it. But go to patreon.com and look up Visually Stunning Movie Podcast and you'll find us. Next weekend, this happens around the country, but next weekend the Utah Browncoats are doing their annual charity screening of Serenity, the great Joss Whedon film based on Firefly universe.
But he ruined Justice League.
No, he didn't. I stand by my assertion that Justice League is only as tolerable as it is because Joss fixed it. So, which doesn't make it great. It just makes it better than it was going to be, which it's two separate arguments.
Sorry.
But that's where I'll be next week. I might there might be some video and audio from the pregame of that for us about their charitable stuff, because charity is good. It's being kind to your fellow man and not hating your fellow man. So until next time, I'm Mark. That's Ryan. Bye, Ryan.
See you guys.
We will talk to you all later.